when I looked at crypto, it wasn't just a means to make money. It was never a thing like, I want to get rich quick. But I was introduced to certain projects that were very lucrative and that were, oh, here's an opportunity. Like, even I remember someone saying to me, oh, you could probably double your money in a year. And I was like, double my money in a year? Like, it's like winning the lotto. And then we're talking like 10Xs, and it all started to sound a bit cray-cray.
Hello, I'm here with my beautiful friend, Jess Soul, and I'm so excited for this conversation. It has been in the works for a few months because, firstly, I've just flown over to Brizzy, where Jess is, or Brisbane, for anyone listening not in Australia. What's Brizzy? And we're actually recording this right now using the tech, and then straight after we're meeting up for dinner. So cannot wait. Welcome, Jess.
Hello, thank you for having me. So good that you're in Brizzy with me.
I'm like Brizzy. I call it Brizzy. Everyone calls it Brizzy.
Yeah, me too. Yes.
And
East Vegas, whatever you want to call it.
I thought Gold Coast was like Surfers Paradise was Bris Vegas. No,
not quite.
Right, it makes sense because of how like kind of tacky it is down there, but like it's not Brisbane. Anyway, look at us already tangenty. I love Jess because Jess is we've had a very similar life, and Jess is definitely a few steps ahead of me, and I have invested in her as my personal coach a few times over the last few years, and Jess has actually been my I feel like I want to say the word confidant when it comes to crypto and getting me, when you break through that barrier, that fear to get into the Web3 digital asset space. And we're going to talk a lot about that. But we first met back in our network marketing days, and we're both leaders in the same company, different teams. And I love Jess. I always looked up to you, and I was always inspired by you with what you were creating. And I want you to introduce yourself, let us know a little bit about you and what you do now, because you have the best way of wording this. And then I have some juicy questions for you.
Well, thank you, Kim. Thanks for having me. And it's such a pleasure because it is like I feel like we're almost at a decade of knowing each other, which is pretty cool. And to have started where we are and then have both really traversed a lot to kind of get where we are now. And I think for many women, that is, especially entrepreneurial women, that is what happens, right? We transition and we evolve, and it's beautiful. Like, we even traveled to India together, not knowing, but inside of a group, and we've done a lot of personal development, and then you became a client of mine. And I think friendship is always that byproduct, of that like-mindedness, like after a certain period, you're just like, this person's going to be my friend. This is how it's going to be now.
I actually know the point, because we knew each other, but we didn't have like a strong relationship. We lived separately. We were in the same company, the network marketing company. And it was the conversation, we were coming back from that first temple that we caught a boat to in India. I think that was in Bombay. Yeah. And then and I was just chatting to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, I like you. Like, we speak the same language. There's energy. And then
and we did a little like Indian head bopping by that point.
It wasn't that night, but a few nights later we got the gin.
Yeah.
And a bottle of gin and rapping Gangster's Paradise or something.
Yes.
Because I don't remember, but I think you had a video of it.
Yes. If you can rap Gangster's Paradise, you are probably going to be my friend. And likewise, I mean, it's kind of like a rite of passage.
Who are we? Let's have some drinkies. Oh, my gosh. Okay.
But so that's how we became, closer and closer. And now we're literally like 15 kilometers away from each other recording a podcast. And then as soon as we're done, we're going for dinner. But so a little bit about me. I've been as a coach, I've kind of been coaching for around about 10 years. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. So since the age of 17, I was like, I'm unemployable, like not from just that brash laziness perspective, but I was like, nobody would want me as an employee because I'm a bit of a rebel and I don't like listening to anybody. And I've always kind of had this drive, like a crazy drive for just doing more, being more, having more, helping more people. And that's taken a lot of twists and turns in terms of like what you would call me in all those periods of my life. But now where I'm at, about 3 years ago, I've been a business coach and a mentor for around about a decade after being a fashion photographer and a health coach and network marketing and business coaching, studied brain biology, breath work. Like I am like, I'm devoted to myself in order to be devoted to my clients. And then a few years ago, I started to dabble into like the Web3 space. And a lot of that stemmed from going through a divorce and hitting rock bottom financially. You know, I was 36 and I had earned a lot of money prior to that age. And I was kind of like wondering where it had all gone. And I was like, what has happened here? This is a bit cuckoo. I'm not really feeling the vibe of what's going on. We're going through a pandemic and all these things. And I just was like, I want to make really big changes for my own self. I need to break lineages. I need to really collapse time. That was probably the biggest like theme of what I was wanting for myself was divorce sucks, feeling like financially broken sucks, going through domestic violence, going through an awful time, navigating all that and then going, I need to collapse time. I need it to shift because I've got no time to muck around anymore. I started to feel old and I was like, I'm learning something new. And that's what led me into the land of Web3 and blockchain and crypto. And since then, which was around, I say 3, but it's probably more like 2.5 years ago, I just decided to really delve in and, you know, I stopped caring what everyone thought about crypto and I started to just make decisions based off what I needed for my family. And so curbed my spending habits, changed a lot around my lifestyle and went heavy into that space. And now I educate on it and I help people with it, which is quite surreal in many ways. But I've also in that time been able to build a really substantial portfolio for myself. And yeah, I feel like the future for my family is really strong as a result of that last few years and what I've kind of traversed through. So yeah, that's my.
I love it. And so this podcast is Wealthy as Fuck. So it's all about creating a wealthy as fuck life, which you've done. And like you've been a part of my journey to help me as well. We both started kind of our full dive deep into the personal development, starting to heal our mummy and daddy issues with the same company and coaching there, which I love that because like we get it. We're on the same wavelength. And I personally feel like you just move faster than me. You have a little bit more time on me, as I was saying. I'm hitting that mid-30s now where I'm like, I need to like collapse time. And I actually want to know, because then we'll dive. I know everyone wants to hear about the crypto because we all love the crypto. But what actually, because I don't know if I've ever asked you this, and I think I might know just from things you've shared, but maybe not. What was the like deepest, darkest, yuckiest, most poverty, money belief that you actually probably didn't realize was at play? Or maybe like when you had to heal that, maybe it wasn't your first lot of like this healing and peeling back the layers, but was there a moment where it was like, holy fuck, that's been at play this whole time? And then talk me through how you healed it and came out the other side.
Yes. So when we talk about like money beliefs and deepest, darkest ones of those, mine was the core. Rich people are greedy and are tight asses. So rich people don't want to part with their money, basically. This for me was really hard because one of my strongest values in life is generosity. And so the more money I have, the more I want to give. Like I'm that person who I'm like, I'm buying dinner. I want to buy gifts and I always overgive and I don't even want to say overgive. I love giving. It's just part of me. and contribution from a perspective of like charity and being able to help change things that, without going down that rabbit hole, need changing. That's always been something that's important to me. And my sister passed away when I was 6 years old of cancer. And from the minute I was able to, I've been giving to the Cancer Council. Even though I don't know if they're ever going to cure cancer, I've always been giving for things that are important. But I grew up with this belief that if you're wealthy, then you're probably going to be a tight ass, and you're probably going to be a Scrooge, and you're probably going to be greedy. And I thought, well, the more money I make, the more awful I'm going to become. And that was a huge thing. And that came from a really young age. It came from a family member that I watched, build a house and display certain behaviors around me. And I just thought, well, I don't know if I want to be wealthy if that's how I'm going to turn out. Like, if that's the byproduct of wealth, maybe I don't want it. And so I did this really great dance of like hitting glass ceilings over and over again. And that came from a belief around all you need is around about $1,000 a week to survive. Which back then, I mean, I'm 41 now, but back then, if you own $1,000 a week and your partner did, that's $2,000 a week, which is about $100,000 a year. I was like, what more could you need? And so every time I hit around about 120,000 a year as an entrepreneur, I would do this and self-sabotage again. Yeah.
Me too. It's like this glass ceiling. And I also believe, like, because my parents worked jobs, JOBs. My dad's a police officer, so government role where set incomes. And my point was as well, like, I was capped at this 100K a year. And when I learned that there's a level of it that I don't want to outshine my dad, my hero, my rock, because he's painted like this is what success looks like and this is the limit.
And how audacious. Like, I remember when I started to realize that was just not actually a reality in our day and age. When you think about inflation and taxation and all those different things, like 100,000 and the buying power of our currency, it was like, there's no way that's going to be enough for us, and yes, those beliefs and that whole idea of having more than your parents, or being able to shout them lunch, that was such a weird concept for me for such a long time, because I was the little girl, I was the daughter, and then being able to say, actually, I'm going to buy you guys, like, I'm going to take you guys away for a holiday. And massive transformational shift in your whole persona when you decide to change and break that lineage. Definitely.
I never saw firsthand family member. Well, like, I never was influenced firsthand by. I have a few rich, inverted commas, rich. I don't actually know how wealthy they are, but apparently, like, some uncles and stuff. But it was like my mum and other family members who would then talk about them and would say, oh, they're not coming to Christmas. Oh, they're so snobby, they're doing their property thing, or they all have shares. So it's like when the victim came out with the low socioeconomic thinking, the poverty mentality, which, both of us grew up in, that's when I got those beliefs too. Like, oh, well, rich people are snobby and greedy. Even though I want to be rich. We all want to be rich. But it's that subconscious. If that's at play, and I think anyone listening, if you ever heard that rich people are greedy, rich people are snobby, there will be, if you made an extra $100,000 right now, got handed money, like, you will get rid of it straight away, because subconsciously you don't want to be associated with greed. And the crazy, we think it's crazy, but now on the other side, both you and I know this for a fact, is once we have more money, we have more to give. But I'm such a better human, wealthier. I have more love to give. I have better standards. I can say no easier. I'm still working on the people pleaser thing. When you think you've worked on it and then more comes up. I used to be like, when I was in scarcity, I would have been the most annoying friend. Like, yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, that's a topic we could talk about for so long, because when they say, and when you hear it said that money amplifies who you are, you either celebrate that phrase and you're like, fuck yeah, absolutely. Or you're like, holy shit, I don't know if I want money to amplify who I am. And what you said, you can lose it as quick as you go. You will amplify exactly where you're at. It's like in our relationships with intimacy or with friendships or with family, we mirror everything. And so when we're looking at our relationship with a man or a woman or a family member or our children, when you feel confronted, it's the same when money comes in. And if you don't know how to hold it, and if you don't feel worthy of it, then yeah, you can bring it through and it'll just like go straight out, because it's like the old saying, in one ear out the other. It's similar, and if you don't feel worthy of that income, or you don't know how to handle it and you don't have systems and all those things, then it will not stay with you. And if you feel like it's worthless because of all those things that you've been told, or it's going to create or turn you into something you don't want to be, then you'll burn it, burn baby burn, because that's what our subconscious will tell us all the time.
And this is what happens when we hit mid-30s and we're like, we've been working our whole life. Why do we have nothing to show for it? Because we burnt it all away. We got it in and let it go straight back out because we didn't have the capacity to hold it. Yeah. So when did you find – I haven't asked this question because I feel like you won't have like one moment because there'll be multiple. Or talk to me about when – actually, I think I would love this with bringing it into the crypto, because you were started to build your wealth with fiat or cash, like in the Australian dollar or whatever, currency. And that would have grown and grown and grown. But then there's also a glass ceiling, unless like there, but how can I then collapse time to make this money work for me more? Did you hit a point when, and we'll go back to what made you come into crypto, but did you hit a point where then there was a big influx of money, of wealth growing, and did you feel like the limits? And then what did you do so you could hold that next level?
Yeah. Well, look, I did that. I did a really good self-sabotage loop for a long time, It was like, oh, I've got money. Well, how do I like not be greedy? So I just did the generosity piece way too much. Like there was a point when I was earning a lot of money back in around 2020, 2021. I was giving so much to charity that it was like outrageous. Like if people saw, they'd be like, girl, you probably should have been putting that into Bitcoin, shouting people dinner, like gifting people, just the way we ate, like doing things just unconsciously to get rid of the money I was earning, having no idea.
Justifying like, well, I'm giving to charity, so I'm doing something good. I'm buying all the organic grass-fed market food. And obviously when that's a standard, but when it's like, well, I'm doing the right thing, it's just there's a level of justifying, even though deep down, we talk about this, it's like buy your daily coffee, but buy the Bitcoin too.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if you get $7 coffee, then put $7 in Bitcoin. Like,
yeah, it's very easy. But yeah, so that at that time, like there was a lot of that self-sabotaging going on, just not feeling okay to hold it. And then I got to a point where I had actually gotten myself to a point where I had 100K or just a bit over 100K saved. And even then it was like, what's this doing for me? And what is this making me feel? And so much of that, like for so many people, like when they hit a goal like that, it's like, oh wow, I've made it in my life. Whereas I was like almost, and this comes down to like the psychology of my upbringing and then what I'd gone through, almost like the more scarcity I feel, the harder I'm going to work. So I better burn that money so I get scarce again, so I can work hard again. It's a very toxic little pattern I used to play. It worked, but it didn't really serve me at all. It was very detrimental to my wealth creation.
Listening now, if you're listening, you can probably relate to that. Like, oh my gosh, actually I do that too. When I finally get ahead or I get the bonus or I made the extra sales, I've done that so many times where I'm like, it's like you tell yourself you're not allowed to relax and chill when the whole point we want to grow our wealth is so we have more time to relax and chill and do the things we actually love. And I've done that. I was like, well, I better hustle again. Or I spend it because it's there. It's like, oh, I've spent it now.
Now I need to go again. Yeah.
It's definitely a toxic trait.
Yeah.
So then when you were introduced, maybe when you were introduced to crypto, because I think we've all been introduced to crypto, but and there was still that like, it's interesting, but I'm scared, I don't want to lose it. When were you properly introduced where it was like, actually, this is a fuck yes, this aligns, this makes sense?
Yeah. Years and years ago when I was married, we had bought like $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. And I remember actually saying to my ex-husband, this is stupid. We shouldn't do it. We can't afford it. And as soon as it made a gain, I actually don't even know what happened. I think he just took it out and we just left it. And then in 2019-20, I purchased Bitcoin. And as soon as I made a gain, I was like, happy days, need that money, get it out. So I'd had some interactions with crypto. I knew what it was. I understood it. I was also very interested in working inside of a more autonomous, sovereign place in my life. That came from a myriad of different experiences. We probably don't have time for all that today, but a lot of it came down to me realizing that, especially with children, with government, with different choices they were asking us to make through certain periods with pandemic and those things, I was like, I don't like being controlled and I want to be more autonomous and sovereign. So a lot of that led me down the path of how do I become like my own sovereign being? Like, how do I become that? Then that drip fed into crypto. And I was like, okay. So I had a few annoying people. I call them annoying because they were like in my inbox going like, hey, Jess, are you doing this or have you heard of this? Or like, I just wanted to let you know. And I was like, oh my God, I hate those people. I used to hate those people. I don't really, but I was like persistent and annoying, but also very much like, did you know? And I was like, actually, no. And after a while, there was a couple of people, but one in particular that was just like, you know what? You really need to take a look at what I'm doing. And I'm grateful for the persistent, pestery person that was like, just take a look. And I was like, all right, I'll dip my toe in. And at that point, I had a really big ego as well. I was like, I'm a business coach and I earn so much money and I don't really need anybody's help. And to be honest, I was earning and I still do earn fantastic money as a coach, but also quite naive to the fact that I wasn't doing anything with my money. I wasn't really multiplying it. And so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll dip my toe in. And so I started to learn and understand what Web3 really meant. And for me, and I think for a lot of people, they think it's just about buying Bitcoin or buying, XRP or whatever. But it really opened up a world of understanding around like how the whole blockchain and Web3 space works, which I didn't understand. I just thought it was about buying coins, like buying into the stock market. But since then, I've come to learn that there is far more to it than that. And that has been what's really excited me for why we're moving in that direction and why I think everyone should be very aware of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love it. I'm just sitting here like, just keep telling me more. Talk to me more about like that explains why it makes sense. It's why it makes sense to me. Like you shared with me what you were doing, and then I had all the ego and the victim of how many questions did I have? I was freaking annoying. Mm-hmm. I was trying to find everything wrong. I was like, nah, there's got to be something wrong. It doesn't make sense. But do you know what? By doing that and getting all the answers, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. Yep. I need to be in this space. And I definitely like my risk adversity and where I was in my life and with my husband's where he was and our relationship more unstable with some grief things, which I've talked about previously. I was like, I want to put more money in, but I'm still living in a world where I need cash. Yeah. But even just, I guess, ripping that Band-Aid and slowly ripping the Band-Aid, getting into that space, like you can never look back. So I guess I want to open like the floor up for you. Is there anything you would love to share or any wisdom around this or anything burning that you feel like more people need to know
Yeah.
understand the Web3 space, the crypto space. And I think we should talk about like being in the decentralized world of it.
Yes.
So kind of two areas, two worlds you can come in. And there's in my opinion, the right one and the wrong one.
Yeah.
Based on your values, you'll agree or disagree. But yeah, is there anything that you want to share around this?
Yeah. Yeah. So for many people, it just seems too hard. Let's get that out of the way, right? It's like, why would I do it? And as you said, that risk adversity and like needing and wanting to feel like stable and secure. So without going down the huge rabbit hole of it, but at the same time, it's important to bring it forth, is that fiat currency, which is, our Australian dollar, it isn't backed by anything. So therefore, what that means is that I think it was prior to 1970 or 71, our currency was backed by gold. And then they decided to become unbacked and to say, well, now we're just going to print this thing. And even now, like, let's be real, fiat isn't even really getting printed because we don't have a lot of cash available anymore. So they're really just making numbers up and they're putting them into our accounts. So when they're loaning us money and doing those things, that's how fiat's working. And we're looking at inflation and our buying power. And so that's where it really has to start, is understanding that. And the easiest way to explain that is the price of eggs. I mean, a dozen eggs 5 years ago were probably $8, and I'm paying like 12 to 13 now for organic eggs. So everything is going up, but the value of the dollar is not going up with the price of goods. It is going down. Very simple. I love speaking in layman's terms because at the end of the day, it took me so long to wrap my head around this. And I was like, I don't want to be in finance and I don't want to be this smart girl. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I used to say, I'm just blonde. I can't do this. So trust me, if I can do it, anyone can.
Crypto for dummies. We call it crypto for dummies.
Yeah. And then like the progression into understanding what crypto was and what that meant and where that could go, it's quite a journey. But when it comes to looking at decentralized finance and looking at that space, we have to look at what's happening in the world. So the economics, the climate, what is happening financially, global financial crises happening, there has been in the past. So a lot of that we can look at what has happened in the past, and then we can kind of predict what's happening in the future. Again, though, that becomes quite confronting for people because we don't really want to face it. When we really assess how our money is flowing and what we're paying in fees, just tap and go fees alone. I mean, we won't even go into taxation, but tap and go fees. Like just now we're getting a fee charge because we don't insert our card. Like they just made this up. The central banking system decided to say, here's a point whatever percent. And now this is billions of dollars that the central bank is owning as a result of us having a convenience item of tapping and going, but we forget how detrimental that is to the broader perspective of society. We're just happy days tapping and going, right? So for me, when I looked at crypto, it wasn't just a means to make money. It was never a thing like, I want to get rich quick. But yes, I was introduced to certain projects that were very lucrative and that were, here's an opportunity to like, even I remember someone saying to me, oh, you could probably double your money in a year. And I was like, double my money in a year? Like, it's like winning the lotto. And then we're talking like 10Xs, and it all started to sound a bit cray-cray. But my knowledge over the last few years has really expanded into a place where it's more grounded. So I look at different strategies and obviously kind of spread eggs and diversifying dollar cost average and do those things. But when it comes to understanding, I suppose, why moving to the blockchain? Why work with cryptocurrency? Number one, it's peer-to-peer, person to person, right? So when someone says P2P, there's no middleman. So I booked a photo shoot today and I paid half of the fee to my photographer in Bitcoin. I was like, oh yeah, I'll pay the invoice. And then she goes, do you want to pay me in crypto? And I'm like, if you want, I'd be happy to, because I now store most of my assets in blockchain Web3 decentralized space. And I was like, how much do you want, like, of the total invoice? And she's like, 50% you can pay me in Bitcoin. And I was like, perfect. And so peer to peer means that I didn't need to ask for permission. It's non-traceable, and I just moved her the money. And she's like, thanks. Not only that, because she has a surplus of income, so she doesn't necessarily need all the income she's receiving through her business to receive a payment outside of the banking system without the Stripe fees and all those things. It completely changes the way that you work with an income, right? Because we've just made an exchange that's completely private, and it's completely different to what we're used to. We have control, right? Which is a whole nother level of.
And I think people don't understand that level of control. So control is like, if I was to transfer you $5,000, I need to pay Jess $5,000, whether it's I'm just transferring you because I bought
you bought a lounge off me, or because you're hiring me as a coach.
Yeah. If I transfer from my bank, first of all, I need to make sure I have a transfer limit, because, they're protecting us.
Yeah, they're deciding.
And I'm like, it's my money. Why is there a limit? And so there's that level of control. So people don't realize that, I'm not being controlled, I'm being protected. No, you're being controlled.
Yes.
But it's being perceived as protection. And yes, to a degree, in a centralized space where there is a middleman, where there's fees and stuff, you can look at it as you're kind of paying for a bit more protection. Like, I have to say, my Amex was hacked and they put that money back there straight away. So there is a level of that. So there is the perks, but we have to understand the cons, which I believe are far greater from a sovereign point of view. And the way the world's going, the cons are they kind of get to say, they get the final say on your money, not you.
Yeah, we had an instance not long ago where my partner moved money from his account to my account. It was, around about $10,000, right? And then I went to move it to crypto, and the bank decided that I could not access my bank accounts for a few days. And this was very, very recent, and I have a history of purchasing cryptocurrency, but they did not like how the activity looked, because they deemed it to look like money laundering, because it came from one account to another account and went straight out. Very quick transactions. Now, not to mention that my partner's been moving me, regular amounts of money for probably the last 3 years to pay the bills every week. And so there was really no suspicion, but they did not like how it looked. And therefore they decided that I couldn't access my accounts. Now, to put that into context, because I hold a very small amount of money in those accounts, I couldn't use my card. I think I had under $100 on my card, had other money in sub-accounts, but because they had blocked my internet banking, I couldn't move my money around. So not only had they tied up tens of thousands in the stratosphere of nowhere, which means they're earning money off the money they've held. Mm-hmm. Even if I was trying to make a trade, like imagine if I was trying to buy Bitcoin and then the next day it had gone up by 10,000 US, which has happened recently in Bitcoin, there could have been a massive loss. So there's no justification for it. And I had a newborn baby. So I actually did play the victim card a little bit. And I said, look, like, I'm a new mum, like I can't be left without money. And they did end up freeing up my money for me. How grateful should I have been? Yeah. But it was, again, just one of those experiences which are not uncommon where, yes, and I agree, like this, again, one of those conversations we could have for a long time. Some people do need protection, like elderly people that can get scammed, and that do not manage funds. And if they don't have, correct systems that are set up with family members that they trust, I'm watching my grandmother do that at the moment where, she needs us to assist her with her things because she's aging. So there are people that do need protection and care. And then there are the other, probably 80% of the population who, if they use their brain and decided to critically think, they would realize that the payoff for having self-responsibility is far greater than the payoff for being protected.
Yeah. And I always share when it comes to this is it can feel like when I first went into the decentralized full custodian part, I got the wobbles. I felt anxious because my whole life I've been conditioned to not trust myself and always trust a higher power, trust your banks, trust your teachers, trust over yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So it is going to feel scary because then we're like, fuck, if anything does go wrong, there's risk in everything. And usually the greater the risk, the greater the reward anyway. Our victim ego wants to keep us safe. So if we have someone else to blame and we put our trust into someone else, that's when we're in this autopilot poverty land, being the victim of everything. We have to be able to transition and just practice being in that space. I had to practice being like, no, I trust myself more and it's going to be okay. And the more I did it, well, now it's easy. Like I love having full responsibility of my money. And then if anything was to happen, because anything can happen anywhere, right? If it is my responsibility, I can move through it quicker, no matter what. Get over it. Cool. How do I rebuild if that was to happen? Like it's no big deal. Yeah.
Absolutely. And look, I always say, like at the beginning, it took me around 4 to 6 months to really understand. I hated opening anything to do with crypto or DeFi or platforms. I was like, it all looks so masculine. It looks boring. Trust me, it's not boring when you start making money while you sleep, when you start compounding, when your profits are like just becoming passive, when you're like, actually, I'm also a great business owner or a great employee at a job that I'm fantastic at. And now, like, all that hard-earned cash is actually working for me while I'm with my kids or when I'm – so it feels restrictive and stressful and boring at the beginning, but it is not boring or restrictive or stressful for very long. There is definitely now, like, times where you do need to call on people to help you. Definitely. Let's remember that only 8% of the population even own crypto right now. So if you're listening to this and you're even close to owning anything, you're unlike the other probably 90% of the population who still have their head under the sand and are like, it's a scam. It's a poo-poo thing. It's like, no, because the wealth transfer right now is moving very fast. And in the next 4 to 5 years, there will be multi-millionaires made. Again, stories of the past predictions of Bitcoin. That'll happen again, and it is happening. And then there'll be still that mass sheeple mentality of these people are crazy. This is too much for us to handle. Mm-hmm. So that'll happen in the next 4 to 5 years. And then in the next 10 years, there'll be mass adoption and everyone will have some form of crypto.
Yeah. So like really miss out, which like
it's just a decision now. Like, how long do you listen? It's kind of like, 10, 15 years ago, whenever I remember I'll give you an example real quick. When I was 18, which is actually 23 years ago, I was listening to Tony Robbins tapes in the car, not CDs, tapes, rewind, fast forward tapes. My ex-boyfriend at that point was a real estate agent and he was like, personal development is so cool. And my dad was like, personal development's a crock, positive affirmations. This is shit house. Just work hard. And I remember listening because I had a long drive. I think there was a few, but I distinctly remember these recording tapes that you had to fold out and listen to. And I was definitely one of the weirdos because most people were still just listening to the radio, right? Yeah. As most people still do in their car. Right now we've got podcasts. But the thing is back then that was unheard of, that you would lean into something as odd as trying to develop your mind. And now this is where we're at with crypto. It's the same thing. Why would you get uncomfortable? Why would you lean into something so uncomfortable? Why would you confront yourself? Same thing. It's just a different narrative, as in a different medium. Mm-hmm. But 20 years ago, it was the mind. People didn't know about mindset.
Yeah.
Now it's everybody knows about the mindset, right? Everybody knows about mental health. Now we're doing biohacking. And now we're doing wealth creation at a level where we collapse time, and people are either going to stay blind or they're going to lean in and follow the breadcrumbs and make massive change for their children at the end of the day. Like, how it changes us as adults is one thing, but how it changes our children is where it's really going to impact and make that generational wealth thing. Like, people will have their minds blown when they see children like mine or yours, at 18 already millionaires because of what we've done as women or men, but as women in this conversation, because of what we've decided to do, leaned into discomfort and gone, fuck this shit, we're going for it.
It's not like we're making, stereotypical trust fund babies. It's because I know it's a lot of that. You could be listening now and be like, I don't want my kid to be a millionaire because then they'll be all snotty and uppity, but that's because what we've watched and been conditioned with is to see that. But I'm like, I had no help. Like, one of my coaches told me, no, this chat with Guru, I have to tell you about it when we have dinner. They call him Guru, this Indian astrologer, and he's like, you're self-made. I'm like, they call him Guru. He's got an Indian name that I can't pronounce. I can't remember it. We just call him Guru. And he's like, you're self-made, because he's like, you've never been handed out anything, have you? And I was like, I've never met this guy in my life. I did my Indian astrology recently. Fucking brilliant. And I was like, no, never. When I was 18, I had to fully fend for myself. Now, for me, and I know this for your kids as well, we're the same here, is I don't want Isla and my future children to get to 18. I don't want them to, I'm not going to give them a handout as in, oh, here you go, whatever. It's like we were saving separately, and I was like, Daniel, I had to just really convince my husband to just trust me on this if you don't want to learn. Like, I was like, I'm going to hold her savings that we put aside in crypto, but I don't need to have it so separate with her, because when we're in decentralized, there's no names on it anyway. I'm like, by the time our wealth grows and when she gets to that age, like, she gets a cut, but it's a family wealth. It's a generational wealth. And then we work out, like, how's the best way to manage that? What is she going to do with it? But the humans that, because we do the mindset work and we change our full identity around it, the little humans that we're role modeling for, they're not going to become the entitled, those entitled young adults.
No, I don't say, like, our kids will be millionaires. It does not mean, like, on their 18th birthday, we sing the "Wouldn't it be nice," song, and we hand them a certificate with their $1 million. Fuck no. Like, if my children are not self-responsible, if they're not entrepreneurial, if they're not following the principles I teach all my clients, and so do you, there's no way they're receiving that money off of me, but they will have wealth built on my behalf.
Yeah.
They're not being gifted anything. They're going to need to earn their stripes, but at the same time, I was always like, my mum and dad, like, tried their best to teach me, but there was not enough there, like, in terms of, like, the structure to go, here's how you make money quick when you're young. Yeah. Now, in our day and age, like, I mean, Isla's still little, right? She's 3, but I've got a nearly 14-year-old, and I look at her and I'm like, girl, you better move, because there's a window. And that window can either make you even tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands as a young adult, or you'll be me doing I'm 36 and I'm at rock bottom. And I'm like, no way, no how am I going to not educate you for that. Your children will be miles ahead, because of that, that way that you operate in your own home. And therefore, yes, I will ensure that my children have assets, but they're always going to be drip fed accordingly to their behavior. So we don't tolerate, a trust fund mentality, but we also should be willing and able to build wealth for our children. Yeah. And when it comes to it, when you look at the behavior of a Web3 or a blockchain or a Bitcoin portfolio, you're never spending it anyway. The strategies that we use are not, you don't sell out like property. It's different. It's a different mentality. So the babies will be happy that us gals and guys decided to get out of our comfort zone.
Oh, and you know what? We always learn faster than our parents. So there's things I know that I don't say. Our kids are just going to learn more about it, and then they can re-educate us.
Yeah.
We'll be like, you can become more obsessed with your brain and tech and all of that. And if we're flagging behind with our Bitcoin and whatnot, tell us. Why not?
Yeah.
We'll love you. Sure.
Yeah, well, my 8-year-old just had his first $1,000 saved, and he hit that milestone thanks to his birthday money. And he was like, what should I buy? And I was like, okay, well, you've got a few options. Like, we can go for like things like Bitcoin or XRP, or we can go for something a little bit more high risk, and we can spread eggs into projects that are growing but don't have the predictability, or we can buy nodes. And he's like, we should spread the eggs. And I'm like, yes, boy, spread the eggs. Go a little high risk at the age of 8, you know? I'm like, throw it all into one of my projects that feel a little bit more risky. But I love that because I'm super proud. And he goes, I'm a cool crypto boy. And I was like, yeah, you are, mate. That's cooler than buying, tapping Apple Pay for your freaking Minecraft, whatever kids his age are doing. So I'm like, I'm all power to that. Yeah.
Actually, I just had this conversation with Isla on Sunday. So today's Tuesday. So 2 days ago, Pocky, her kind of granddad, but not, he's our uncle, but he's called Pocky Ken, came over and gave her $50. And she's like, look, Mum. And I was like, I had the conversation. I'm like, because I want to buy toys. I'm like, of course you can. But what we'll do is like, let's invest a percentage.
Yeah.
So you can still have your cake and eat it too. And I'm already telling, she's like, Mum, what fucking language are you speaking? I'm like, this is what we do with our money. We buy assets for the long term. So when that asset grows, your money grows. So you can then buy more toys with the profits. If I just got to speak in her language, and then so if she can put together 3.5, like compound my money or put it into assets so it grows equals more toys. She wants the more toys.
Toys with the profit. Keep the capital, keep the original. Yeah. I mean, whatever's normal is normal. So, I remember growing up, and my parents are amazing, but, it was like, daddy's working, mummy's tired. I used to say that when I was a kid, daddy's working, mummy's tired. That was normal for us. We only got like takeaway once a week, once a month. It was like, oh, this is the treat because, we can't afford it. Money doesn't grow on trees, all that typical stuff. And so that was a very normal way for my brain to operate as a young adult. Whereas if you're teaching a child at 3.5, place your money where it compounds so that you can spend the profit and still have what you want. Imagine her at 20. I don't spend any of my original. I don't spend anything I earn. I only buy things with my profit or with my passive. I mean, that's completely logical, and to her it will be so logical.
Totally, yeah. Normal. That's what I'm saying. This will be my retirement fund. She'll have all this knowledge, so it will be autopilot, and then I'll just give her my money and be like, do what you need to do.
One day we'll want to just really sip the margaritas and lay on an island, and we'll be like, kids, you're smarter than us now, so go do it.
I've loved this chat. Thank you so much. So this now, like, where can people find you? Do you have anything you want to share? I know you offer, look, guys, if you guys want to learn and get your fingers, spread the eggs, you want to start spreading the eggs, get into connecting with Jess. What's the best, we'll link everything in the show notes below anyway, but best place to find you, anything you'd love to share that they can get a hold of now?
Yeah, look, I've got my newly released podcast, which is called Rich and Regulated. The best place to look for that, my name is Jessica Sol, S-O-L. So on YouTube is cool because you can watch the videos, and it's fairly new, but I'd love it if you subscribed and did all that. I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I think I'm on X, I'm on Facebook, but Instagram is probably the best place to have a look at what I do. And look, Kim, you offer so many amazing things. We're very in alignment with our offerings, but I do have crypto confidence courses I'm offering, things like that. But at the very least, just go and consume a bit of the content, go and have a listen. At the end of the day, my goal is just to help more people elevate into, the people that they're meant to be, into their birthright, which is abundance and prosperity, So follow along. And I always say, like, it's such an honor for you to expose me to your people, and also don't feel afraid to drop into my inbox. If you've listened to this or you've got a question, ask away. I will never ignore anybody. If I've got the quality problem that I can't keep up with my DMs, I'll be thrilled. But like, please, like, let me know if something impacted you, or if you've got a question, or if something didn't resonate or did resonate, or you didn't quite understand something. I'm always here. So yeah, that's where I'd love to lead you into, is my inbox.
I have all those links in the show notes. So you can go click, go stalk, go follow, go ask Jess. She can, the different crypto projects that you're a part of. And look, I'm a part of them too, but I'm like, Jess is your gal. Go to Jess. She's going to help you really well. Thank you. So, and like, you've got your coaching as well. It's not just crypto. There's the coaching aspect, which, you know, it can look like business coaching, but like, I joined up for the business coaching, but it just elevated me as a human being. Like, the version I became that you helped me elevate through and grow through was like, it's phenomenal. Like, I completely.
And yeah, I'm a coach through and through. I've renamed myself 1,000 times, but I'm like, at the end of the day, I coach people because we cannot make moves without our mind shifting and our internal self making change. And it's an honor to hold people and walk that path with people to enable them to then go and do all these beautiful things. Yeah, I'm here for all of that as well.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome, Kim. Thanks for having me, and lovely to chat.
Right, see ya.
Bye.